What's going on, guys? PowerGPU here. Today we're going to be doing a video on Fortnite. It's a very simple game, but it's a very fun game at the same time. I will tell you this video is not going to be based off the impression of the game or how the presentation was or the final review of the game. I haven't beaten the game myself. I've been playing it quite a bit since the early access. I've been having a lot of fun with it, playing with viewers and streaming it. It's a very fun game to stream, so if you're a streamer out there and you need some content, this is definitely a game to play for sure with your viewers. It's a lot of fun to do so. But this video is not about the review of the game itself. If you want that, you go to IGN. Trust me, they'll do a whole lot better job at that than I would. In this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be benchmarking it. This is what we do in this channel. We test out games. We see what kind of hardware they require to run. So on and so forth. And we see if there's any issues with it performing. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is talking about what setup I run to run this game and what setup I would recommend for you to run if you do want to run this game on a budget as well. So I'll be comparing my machine, which is a more modern machine, compared to my wife's machine, which is a little bit older, but I only built it for like $700. So let's get into it. So pretty much in this game itself, I'm running a GTX 1060. It's an MSI TwinFrozr Gaming X. So it's slightly overclocked from the factory. Not by much. It's by a little bit. And I'm running the AMD RYZEN 1700X at 3.9 GHz. So moving on here, at 1920 by 1080, epic settings, unlimited frames, and no VSync. Again, the higher FPS, the better. You're looking at a minimum of 70 FPS, an average of 75.8, and a maximum of 98. Now keep this in mind. If you're running a different processor like an Intel Core i7 7700K, you might get a little bit more FPS just because at 1920 by 1080, it does utilize more CPU, and the per core performance on those CPUs would be actually better than the AMD Ryzen. So you might get a little bit more, not by much. But one thing to take into account, which I really love and I really like about this game, is if you notice the average and the minimum are very close, which that's how you know when a company optimizes a game. If you see the average and the minimum spike up in a difference, or they have a massive gap, like let's say the minimum was 30 and the average was 75 and then the maximum was 150. That is a big difference in performance. So pretty much you'll start getting a lot of micro stutter. It's going to be stuttering every so often. You could have spikes in frame rates and so on and so forth. You want to see a stable FPS, and that's what we see here. This game runs beautiful. Okay, minimum 70, average 75.8, maximum 98, 1920 by 1080 epic settings. Moving on to 1440p. Now this is 2560 by 1440. Here again, you can see the same thing. The FPS is very close. So we have a maximum of 62.2. We have an average of 49.8 and a minimum of 40.3. This is extremely good. This is what we want to see. Keep in mind, all I did was change the resolution. The settings stayed the same, so everything was still epic settings. Everything was still unlimited frames and no VSync. Now, for those of you guys that are watching that are kind of new to the PC world, what VSync is, VSync actually locks your FPS at 60. VSync is very weird with some games. Some games might like it, some games won't. So you got to be very careful. I don't have anything to try out this game with SLI either, or Crossfire, unfortunately, but I can honestly tell you, stick with one card. Nowadays, SLI and Crossfire is pretty much dead. So just stick with one card. So again, average around 50 FPS, 49.8 at 1440p with a GTX 1060. Again, stock from the factory, but it's a Gaming X, so it has this slightly overclocked, but not by much. Moving on to 3840 by 2160, which, for those of you that don't know, that resolution equals out to 4K resolution. Here, same thing. I kept the settings all the same. Epic settings, unlimited frames, and no VSync. Now here, same thing. You see all the frame rate is very close. Minimum 32.5, average 36.1, and maximum 43.6. That is phenomenal. So even at 4K resolution, which keep in mind, I do have this game on the PS4, and it looks phenomenal. because once you buy it on the PC, you get it for free on the PS4, or if you buy it on the PS4, you get it for free on the PC, which is cool. Thumbs up. That's one thing I do like about Fortnite. Games should start, or a lot of companies should start doing this. That's awesome. But the frame rate is locked at 30 on the PS4. So even with a PC with a GTX 1060, which is it's not an entry-level gaming video card, but it's kind of in the middle, and it's priced around, they start around $219 with the 3 gig model, and they go up to about $280 with the 6 gig, as long as the Bitcoin mining's not going all haywire. But as you can see here, even at 4K, it still averages slightly more than the console. And I have a PS4 Pro, which I know they're not going to change it for the consoles, but I honestly think if they could have run this game at 60 FPS on the console. I'm going to honestly tell you they could have, but they didn't for some reason. So yeah, so as you can see, 36.1 at 4K. Average, that's actually playable. I mean, for me, I would not like it. I like playing over 60 FPS, but for those of you out there that are used to playing on console and stuff like that, you guys are not going to notice a difference. So at 4K, you can play this game at an average of 36, a minimum of 32, and a maximum of 43.6. So that's extremely well. Now, let's turn the clock backwards. Let's go back a few years. Let's go back to the era when X78 came out. You know, we're talking a long time ago. And let's talk about GTX 970 era, which is that's not too long ago. That's about three years now, 4 years. Now what you can do is, if you go on eBay, you can actually find a 3930K, which is a 6-core, 12-thread processor. You can find them on eBay for about $100, right? The only problem is finding the motherboard, and the RAM for it is a little bit hard, but I found the motherboard extremely cheap. I got her in, I think it was an Intel DX SR something Extreme, X79 Extreme. And I got her 12 gigs of RAM for about $80. And then I found an EVGA GTX 970 SC model. It was like $130 at the time when I got it. I did this build about 4 or 5 months ago. So for my wife, this is perfect. All she plays is Overwatch, Minecraft, Ark, and now this game. So it's pretty easy to run. Now moving on here into her benchmarks for her PC. So at 1920 by 1080, epic settings, unlimited frames, no VSync. Again, the higher FPS, the better. Her maximum was 95.3. Her average was 71.2. And her minimum, now here's a kicker, her minimum was 59.1. So this is where you see the difference. On my rig running at the same exact settings, if you notice, my average was 98, 75 versus 71, and 59.1 versus 70. So on her case, if you notice, it's fluctuating a little bit more. So she's getting a little bit less minimums and a little bit less average and a little bit less maximums, but there's a bigger gap between the minimum and the average, which is not a big deal though, because it stops right at 59. So you're not going to notice a massive deal. Again, what I say is you'll notice it when you get the micro stutters is when it goes all the way down to right around, let's say, like if it dropped down to 30, like I said, 30 to 71, then you'll start to notice a big fluctuation in performance. It'll get extremely laggy, or you'll get a lot of micro stuttering, and it'll just get pretty annoying. So yeah, let's talk about what I would recommend for this machine if you want to do something on a budget. You're talking about $600. What I'm going to recommend on this game is the new AMD RYZEN 3s just came out. So if you're on an extreme budget, I've noticed this game is not really CPU intensive, but if you're on an extreme budget, I would go with the RYZEN 3 with the 1300, which is about $130. I would go with a GTX 1050 Ti, which a buddy of mine has a 1050 Ti, and he's been playing this game with me, and he's been able to run it at 1080p at max settings with no issue. So I've noticed that a lot of video cards right around the 970, 1050 Ti's, and the 1060s are all hovering around an average of 70-something FPS. That's what he averaged on his. He was around 70-something, he said. So with the 1050 Ti, which is about $150, a Ryzen 3 1300X, which is about $130, and then of course you get your SSDs, your motherboard, stuff like that. You could definitely build a machine for about $500 with that build and run this game at max settings with no problem. And you might even be able to run Destiny 2 with that. We'll see though. But yeah, you'll be able to run this game with no problem at 1080p with that setup. So that's what I recommend for this game. If you're planning to run an entry level, if you want to build an entry level rig, that's what I recommend. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to give it a like. If you guys are enjoying my content that I'm producing, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and right next to it there's a little bell. Click on that, it gives you notifications when I upload a video, and it sends it directly to your email. If you guys have any questions or concerns, post them in the comments below. And if you guys want to keep talking in IRL, definitely join that Discord at the bottom as well. I'll put the link at the bottom. We're growing that Discord extremely fast. We have a lot of great content and creators in there from Twitch and YouTube, and we're reaching the 300 member mark on there, so we're talking constantly in there. And if you have a question, just put @PowerGPU, tag me, and I'll answer the question there as fast as I can. I'm extremely busy during the day, but I will answer it, I promise you, eventually. Alright? So that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you guys later. You guys have a great night, great morning, great evening, wherever you are around the world watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.